Hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Wygen. Brave the Wild is available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Thank you once again for joining me today on a Thursday morning. Great to be back on Brave the Wild, talking some hockey with you. The last 3 games, how many stars did Alex Staal get? 0.
Come on! Seriously.
And no, it's not the end of the world. And no, it's not Devin Dubnyk's fault that the Wild ended up going 1-2, unfortunately. The Wild unable to get victory over Toronto, which I predicted. But, yeah, well, can we blame Nick Seeler's back? No, we can't blame Nick Seeler's back for that one either. It's just bad luck, I guess. And I don't know. The Minnesota Wild played significantly better hockey in all 3 games. That's the good part. Unbelievable scoring chances. The top line, as we would like to call it, I would think it's the top line, right? The Staal, Granlund, and Zucker line played downright fantastic the entire time. And, man, I love when those guys play together because when they're playing well, they are the best. I mean, that is the best line I've seen. We've had some great ones in the past, say Koivu, Granlund, Zucker, stuff like that. That's been a spectacular line, but Staal, Granlund, Zucker is even better. It is great. Obviously, the Koivu, Parisi, Niederreiter at times line. I guess Niederreiter is still on that line at times. Sometimes he's down on the 4th, he's up, he's down, he's here, he's there. Jordan Greenway is getting significantly better. He's making strides forward, and it's exciting to see. You saw a great play against Toronto during the week. Wow, very impressed with Jordan Greenway. So we'll talk more and more with him. He's starting to show signs, and that's great. So let's get to the 3 games. 3 games to review, 3 games to preview. Again, the Wild 1-2 this week. We'll see what happens. All Canadian games next week, which I'm looking forward to. I love Canadian hockey. Absolutely. I mean, it's what it's all about. And, of course, it'll be 4 games in a row total when you think about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Actually, yeah. 5 games in a row. Sorry, Toronto Maple Leafs all the way up to Montreal. Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal. So, yeah, now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about the gritty, tough team that's deep. And, I don't know, they're a headache to play against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Are they similar to the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators? Yes. I think they are very similar to those 2 teams, actually, in a lot of ways. Kind of gritty, lots of scores, good goaltending. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the whole 9 yards, so to speak. At Columbus, Ohio, we wrap up the month of November. Unfortunately, a 4-2 loss for the Minnesota Wild. Just ultimately not a good game for Minnesota in terms of just Columbus outplayed us. We scored early, which felt great. Mikael Granlund able to finish from the Eric Staal feed. That was a great feeling. We won't see Granlund score anymore, but he'll be setting other players up, namely Zucker, with some great passes. Again, the line was great throughout the whole week. Then things just kind of went the way they did. Minnesota kind of ran into a buzzsaw. Again, several scoring chances, but Bobrovsky would stop just about everything except near the end there when Parisi was able to wrap it in there. His 12th goal of the season. Koivu, Niederreiter, yes, that's been the line. Ultimately, though, Cam Atkinson scoring on the power play. Almost nothing you could do about that. A beautiful one-timer. Henneken, they call him Henny Man, I guess, in Columbus. Whatever they call him, well, it just kind of was what it was. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there were good plays by Columbus. I'm not really mad at Dubnyk. I'm not mad at the Minnesota Wild. It's frustrating at times, though, some of these shots. I don't know. You think you can get them, but just sometimes it's just, sometimes it's just not meant to be. The Riley Nash goal was the most frustrating. He was kind of left alone, and it was he just tipped the pass from Werenski, ultimately past Dubnyk. That was the worst goal of the game. Artemi Panarin, that was the best goal of the game in terms of the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's probably the best overall goal of the game. The way he just kind of was patient and was able to flip it past Dubnyk, left shoulder. That was a good one. 7th goal of the season for Panarin, who ends up generally having more assists than goals throughout the season. But, wow, hell of a play. And Nashville just kind of beat the Wild in this one. I like the way the Wild showed up in this game. They played hard, this and that. They got lots of scoring chances. Bobrovsky was just better. And I don't know. I mean, this is one of those kind of games you just kind of say, it kind of is what it is type of thing. And I don't know. I mean, we never win there. They're a very good team. You wish the Wild could overcome this, but they didn't. And that's basically all there is to say. Columbus 4-2 victory over Minnesota. And ironically, at the end of the week, at this stage, both teams have the same record again, which is kind of funny. So Columbus suffering a couple of losses along with the Wild this past week. And we're talking the exact same record. As the 2 clubs came in with the same record in the game, they come out with the same record after the game. unfortunately, Minnesota's all the way down into the wild card range now, which really sucks. So much for home ice advantage in the first round, but we'll see. Long season to go, and it just kind of is what it is. So now we'll try to step forward slowly into Toronto, as now we got to move over to the month of December, which is, I love December. I love December hockey. The Christmas lights and watching hockey at the same time is there's something special about that. I just love this time of year so much. I like that it's cold out. I like that I'm seeing some snow flurries despite a little bit of blue sky poking through. It doesn't get better than this. It really doesn't. I love winter. I love hockey, and it just... And, the Christmas season and all that. I'm glad it isn't one of those Seattle-type Christmases like we had a few years back where it was just foggy and misty and above freezing, and that was just lame. I don't know why you want a muddy Christmas, but some people do because they just hate the cold. Well, if you hate the cold, you're not going to like hockey. Or the city of Toronto, at least this time of year. Toronto Maple Leafs come to Xcel Energy Center Saturday, the 1st of December. Extremely fun game, fast-paced hockey, and of course one of the best stars in the game, the rising stars, and already a star, his 13th goal of the season, pretty early in the game. In the first period, you just knew Austin Matthews would find the back of the net somehow, some way. And yes, Dubnyk in net, and Dubnyk was not bad in this game. There was a lot of horrible puck luck in this one, and it just drove you nuts, especially a certain guy by the name of Tyler Ennis, and God bless him. He's a nice guy, Edmonton, Alberta native, best friend to Jared Spurgeon, who I just love. Jared Spurgeon, wonderful player, Edmonton, Alberta, of course. They grew up together. Literally best friends. Not just like they just happen to know each other, but we'll call them best friends. Now, it's a true story. That Mitchell Warner, Morgan Riley, Austin Matthews line is one of the best in hockey, and that's why the Toronto Maple Leafs are a Stanley Cup contender in my point of view, especially with Frederik Andersen after a mediocre start to the season, really starting to come around here. And obviously, he's going to want to play this way come April, May, June, of course, if the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to make any type of a run, because we've seen Dubnyk have beautiful months of December and all that, and January, and even into February, and then there's that drop-off because they put him in too much. Common sense. I mean, sometimes you got to give the guy a break, regardless. I mean, the competitive edge, keep him going, come on, keep him going. He wants in, and we want him in because he's just so awesome. But Staal is an extremely reliable backup, and he actually does some pretty special things that other goalies don't do. And I don't know. If you think I'm up here just bashing Dubnyk and I'm turning on him, you're wrong. Okay? Sometimes goalies need a break. That's common sense, and you haven't been watching the Wild the last 5 years or so when there's that drop-off because you overly rely on Dubnyk. You have to give him rest, mental rest, physical rest. And you know what? Sometimes it might be good to piss the guy off a little bit in terms of, hey, he hasn't been in between the nets in 2 games. What the hell? Or maybe 2 out of the last 4 games. What the hell? Oh boy, let's get that competitive edge going. That type of thing. The mental rest and all that, it would help him very much. And obviously, you don't ever want an injury to happen. That's for damn sure, because that would be much worse. Sure, it'd be some mental rest, but the physical part would not be a good thing, obviously, because you never know what type of injury it would be and how long it would linger. That'd be pretty brutal for any NHL team to lose their starting goalie. Just look at the LA Kings, but Jonathan Quick is back. And those of you that were lucky enough to scoop him on your fantasy team, wow, that's a big deal. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Just the fact that I think Dubnyk needs more nights off than he gets. And I don't know. I think just riding him out as if we're in a Stanley Cup run right now is not the best choice. I love Bruce Boudreau. He's my favorite Wild coach of all time. Second place, Jacques Lemaire. Obviously, those are the 2 most established coaches. The rest of them are what they are. Mike Yeo, I think, deserves more credit than he gets. But I don't know. I'd rather see Staal get some time in that. Hopefully he does sometime this week. We'll see. It shouldn't only be back-to-back situations for him to get time in the net. Again, though, Austin Matthews, the great play and all that, and then things went really pear-shaped. Tyler Ennis just kind of flinging the puck towards the net, which is what you're supposed to do. Mostly almost trying to center the pass for someone else, and then ultimately it just goes right off the back of Nick Seeler and into the back of the net, and it's just the look on Tyler Ennis' face like, oh, all right, hey, I like this. I'll take it anytime, basically. Yeah, it was just like, oh, really? For real? Is this for real, or is this just a joke? It was a joke, but it counted. 4th goal of the year, Eric Staal, again, that top line for Minnesota, getting the job done. Staal, Granlund, and Zucker ultimately not getting an assist on this play. Staal ended up finishing kind of from the far point there. 10th goal of the season for Eric Staal. You had to like that. And then you saw Greenway going up the ice. Great pass by Yule Eriksson, that kind of waiting patiently, timing the play. Beautiful pass, and Greenway finishing on a rifle, his 4th goal of the season, and Yule Eriksson with his 3rd assist. And that's beautiful to see. Hopefully these guys can generate more and more offense. They play well together, obviously. They got the physicality growing from Greenway, more confidence and all that. His 4th goal ultimately of the year. Eriksson, you know the skill is there. It's there. He's had scoring chances. And the passing is there as well, obviously. And he's probably, again, last season, when you look at all the analytics and all that stuff, which, I think it's worth a subscription to, so to speak, Yule Eriksson was the best defensive player on the Minnesota Wild last season, and I don't think that's really changed all that much this year. He's not perfect, but he's had some great runs. Yule Eriksson again. I mean, when you start seeing some offense from the guy, his value is going to really, really skyrocket for Minnesota long term as the 3rd line center at the very least. Hopefully 2nd line someday, but you got to get that scoring up if you're going to get on the 2nd line because, well, duh, it's a scoring line. Right now, the checking line will do. And if you can be a nice scoring checking line, well, you got yourself a pretty good hockey team, kind of like Columbus and Nashville and Winnipeg, teams like that. The Zach Hyman goal, I didn't feel too good about that one. But, I mean, I don't know. The same type of situation there. Just kind of leaves you feeling crappy. The final one, of course, again, the empty netter. Gosh, I don't know. That was embarrassing. Suter looked pretty bad there, and he got pushed away, basically. Got manhandled by Zach Hyman. Of course, there's the angles and all that, the momentum. That's obviously a huge thing in hockey. Of course, you're going one way, one guy's going the other. It's not the easiest thing to just turn around, and that's kind of how things went there. Zucker ended up finishing his 8th goal of the season. He would have a huge week, by the way, as we continue to move forward. He had a multi-goal game against the Vancouver Canucks. Kadri getting his 8th goal. Hyman, again, the empty netter. So he ended up with 6 goals on the season, did Hyman. Zucker, at this point, Zucker's scoring had been pretty mediocre at best, but you're going to see production from Zucker now, and that's good as the guys just all start to play better. Mikhail Granlund adding his 15th assist. Again, so many scoring chances for this line in this game, though. I mean, Eric Staal could have had a hat trick in this game, but Frederik Andersen was solid down the stretch, despite giving up 3 goals, but he faced some pretty damn good scoring chances. Minnesota able to finish on 3 of them, ultimately 41 shots for Minnesota on Frederik Andersen, who, again, was borderline lights out in the game. And, the Wild could have won this game. It would have been a high-scoring mess of a game, but then again, the Wild easily could have won this game if not for a couple of lucky bounces and bad puck luck and all that. Good lucky bounces for Toronto, anyway, off of Seeler twice, the poor guy. We love Seeler. He's one of the best defensemen on this team, defensive defenseman and all that, but just some bad puck luck there, and it's unfortunate. It's like, what the hell can you do? It's one of those type of moments. Minnesota played awesome, but ultimately does not come out with the win against the Toronto Maple Leafs on the 1st of December. Fun game, though. Fun game. It's just unfortunate. The stupid bounces of the puck. December the 4th, as we wrap up the review segment, Vancouver, British Columbia. Whew, not easy. This was not an easy game. The start of the game was not so great. Again, it's just Vancouver kind of came out firing. They wanted to end their losing streak. They looked like the better team for a little while, but obviously down the stretch, Minnesota ended up playing a bit better. And you felt a little hope with Anders Nilsson in net. God bless him. He's supposed to be the number 1 goalie for Vancouver, but this year, Anders Nilsson anyway, supposed to be the best goalie for Vancouver, but he hasn't been. Jacob Markstrom the last 2 years has been the better goalie. And obviously, poor Bachman has kind of been left out, was hung out to dry against Minnesota in the Xcel Energy Center a couple of weeks back. That's 6-2 thrashing for Minnesota. That was fun for us. But ultimately, again, kind of a weird start to the game. It didn't feel so great early on. I wouldn't say they were the best goals ever, but certainly not the worst. Dubnyk kind of honed in down the stretch. That early goal by Vancouver left you thinking, you've got to be kidding me. We're going to lose to Vancouver, aren't we? Leivu, 5th goal of the season. But then Parise with a beautiful wraparound on Nilsson about 5 minutes later. And then you felt hope. You felt so much better. And Vancouver ultimately getting the lead back. And you're just thinking, man, that was quite disappointing at the end of the day. I'm seeing things change here again. What the heck? I'm going crazy when I look at this. They gave it to Zucker, and they took it away, and they gave it to him and took it away. That's kind of funny, but we'll leave that alone. So ultimately, the Suter goal was, well, it ultimately did end up being a Suter goal. They had it for Suter, gave it to Zucker, and gave it back to Suter. So, okay, that's how things go there, I guess. At the end of the day, yep, Zucker stuck at 9. So again, okay, 9 goals, 9 assists. But again, that line playing spectacularly. He could have probably 10 more assists if, the way he's played the last week or so. Zucker on some of those Staal opportunities. Of course, Granlund again leading the way nicely now. He's building a sizable lead on the rest of the club, if you can believe that. Granlund very solid in this game. He seems to always play well against the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, his younger brother Marcus Granlund on the other, on the other side there. A couple of assists for Granlund again during this power play, during the power play in the game. All Minnesota Wild goals were on the power play. Beautiful one-timer. A couple of setups to Zucker that ultimately finished on this one. This one was just a little bit better than the previous 2 or 3 there on the power play. This team setting each other up again. The top line and the top power play line right now. I mean, these guys belong together, whether it's the power play or 5-on-5. I mean, they're spectacular together. The Suter goal was actually on a 5-on-3 situation. So just a golden opportunity for Minnesota to tie the game up after that frustrating Tyler Mott goal. It felt so great. And, well, there it was. A Suter again. Doing what you do, you put the puck on net. I thought Zucker did deflect it. You could see it, but I guess they say he didn't. I don't know. So that's just kind of how it is. They keep changing it back and forth. It drives you crazy. Ultimately, Suter with the goal on that to tie it up. And then just moments later, literally just moments later, Minnesota again still on the power play. This is why. And this is called taking advantage of an opportunity. A 5-on-3, you get the Suter goal, and then just moments later, still on the 5-on-4 power play, Zucker again, that beautiful one-timer. Both teams would have several chances down the stretch, and Dubnyk ultimately slamming the door on Vancouver for the next, literally pretty much the next, the rest of the game into the third period, the rest of the second period, which wasn't too much more, about 5 minutes remaining through the rest of the game. Devin Dubnyk slammed the door on Vancouver and had a 2-goal game, so great. There was no empty net. The Wild would have a couple chances, but not really. That was the unfortunate part. It just kind of is what it is there. But nice feeling to come out of Vancouver with the win. This game could have gone the other way pretty quickly, but again, Devin Dubnyk really kind of honing in and digging deep and getting the job done down the stretch, and it felt really good. And I'm sure just a nice mental victory for Devin Dubnyk, mental victory. And again, I guess that's who's probably going to be in net tonight against Calgary. I mean, probably a 99% chance just because that's how we roll at this stage. Nice overall solid finish again for Devin Dubnyk in the game. 3-2 victory. Minnesota, as you kind of want to bounce around, look at the standings a bit, see how things are holding up. As Minnesota, again, sizable lead over Chicago, but that's not saying much. 9-point lead over the Chicago Blackhawks. They're only 9-15. St. Louis is 1 point even worse. Again, the fired Mike Yeo. Chicago Blackhawks, so let's leave that alone. Of course, they fired their coach, Joel Quenneville, which was quite surprising, even though that team is way down there. They're a minus 29, which is about as bad as it gets. Worst in the Western Conference. Minnesota plus 8 on the season. 5th place, but only 1 point behind Dallas. Frickin' Dallas has passed Minnesota. But Minnesota's got a game in hand, as that's always our little excuse. We got games in hand. Well, I'm glad we do. Then win them, damn it. And we got to play a first-place team tonight in Calgary. Who, crazy. Well, they're 4 points ahead of Minnesota. First place in the Pacific Division. Anaheim's ahead of Minnesota right now. San Jose Sharks are a point ahead, which isn't too surprising. And the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm telling you, watch out for the Vegas Golden Knights. 7-3. In their last 10, 7-3-0. Watch out for the Golden Knights. They are moving up, ladies and gentlemen. Minnesota Wild dangling in that wild card position. 1 point ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights, 2 points ahead of Edmonton, and even the Arizona Coyotes, who, well, they'd have a tiebreaker over us right now. 4 points behind Minnesota. I don't think Arizona's going to catch us, but they have a winning record. So the Arizona loss not looking as bad as it did. But Vegas Golden Knights, after that awful, horrific start, they're back a little bit. They're not as good as last year yet, but they're creeping up. It's amazing how things can change so quickly. Just a couple of losses here and there. Just imagine you beat Toronto. There you go, 34 points. You'd still be in the wild card, but you'd have the top wild card, I guess, and only 2 points behind Winnipeg and we knew they were going to come around. They've won 4 in a row. Anaheim's won 5 in a row. Calgary's dazzling right now, 7-2-1. So Colorado's only lost 1 out of their last 10, 2 overtime losses per se, 1 regulation loss. Colorado second place in the Central and second place in the Western Conference. It sucks seeing Colorado being good again, but I guess you kind of saw it coming. The way they would light up the Minnesota Wild, you figure this is a pretty damn good hockey team. And they are. Toronto is outstanding. They're the second best team in the entire NHL. Tampa Bay, number 1 in hockey with 43 points. So, some good hockey teams out there, obviously. Don't be surprised, Toronto, Tampa. And I actually picked that, if I remember correctly, Toronto and Tampa in the Eastern Conference Final. I think that is what's going to happen. Tampa Bay ultimately winning the Cup, I think. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be tough. I would not be surprised if Calgary got to the West Finals, and I kind of hope they do. If it's not us, I hope it's Calgary. If it is us, that's much better. Forget about Calgary then. I mean, let's sweep the Flames if we play them in the playoffs, but we'll just cross that bridge when we get there. Let's do a quick, let's pass out the awards for this week. The Mike Modano Award for this past week, does it go to Eric Staal, or Zucker, or Granlund, or does it go to all 3 of them? Oh, boy. I kind of want to give it to that whole group because they've just been phenomenal. I don't really want to single out one guy. The Mike Modano / Neil Broughton Award for this past week is going to be the entire Staal, Granlund, Zucker line, the top line for Minnesota there. James Shepard Memorial. I don't want to give it to Seeler. I don't think it's just bad luck. What do you do with bad puck luck, this and that? Nobody was that awful this week. It's just in general, the bad puck luck, this and that. I mean, there were bad moments here and there, of course. It's strange, some of the decisions here and there. And, of course, Suter's still not pairing back with Dumba again. Boudreau has not put Suter and Dumba back together since then. You've seen Dumba actually play on the left side on occasion with Spurgeon. Looks kind of weird out there. But he ultimately ended up putting the Wild back in the mix in one of the games. Ultimately led to one of the goals anyway. If I remember, it was one of Parise's goals. Dumba getting an assist along the way there. Granlund just flat out leading the way with 28 points. 5 ahead of Parise, who's second. That's pretty incredible how Granlund's really becoming something right now. He's an 80-plus point guy as long as he stays healthy. A very strong week or so for Spurgeon as well. He's been tacking on the points. He's been quiet for the longest time. Stuck at 10. Now he's at 15. He's on a nice week in the offensive side. Niederreiter continues to be invisible. Coyle continues to be invisible. Let's just give it to Niederreiter because he's been basically invisible. He did add 1 assist this past week, but I'm not happy with him. Coyle looked better than Niederreiter, I think. I think Coyle does more of the little things than Niederreiter does, so Niederreiter should get the James Shepard Memorial. And right now, I think he's the leading candidate for it on the season, unfortunately for him. I can't give it to Seeler because that's bad puck luck, so maybe a little better positioning. I don't know. I mean, whatever, I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. So with that, we'll take a quick break. We'll preview the 3 games coming up and look into the prospects some more in segment number 2. We are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. We're going to preview 3 games, all against Canadian teams. A couple of the Alberta 2-step here coming up. It's going to be a back-to-back, so we will see Staal in one of these games. The Alberta 2-step, Calgary and Edmonton, and then come back on Tuesday to play against Carey Price and the ever underachieving Montreal Canadiens. Though they're scoring goals, but giving up quite a few, like always, all of a sudden. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. And, of course, we'll end the show with the prospects like we usually do and the contact details and all that good stuff. So, Thursday, December the 6th, Minnesota takes on my second favorite team, the Calgary Flames, first-place club in the Pacific Division, which will be hosting the Seattle somethings, the Seattle Sockeyes, the Seattle Rainforests. I don't know. Sockeyes is one of the top possibilities. I forget what the other one was. It was kind of weird, but we will welcome the Seattle somethings to the NHL. So they will be starting play in 21-22. So basically 2021 is when they'll be starting play. And the team that will even things out, so you'll have 8 teams in both divisions at this stage, or at that stage anyway. The Arizona Coyotes will be coming to the Central Division. So we'll be welcoming Arizona to our division. That'll be very interesting, just like maybe someday the Arizona Sun Devils will be joining the Big Ten in college hockey. Go for hockey. Well, at least they got to overtime twice against Ohio State, and they lost. I'll talk about that, kind of semi-talk about it a little bit in the next segment. And give a shout-out to GPL. Yep, Go for Puck Live podcast. Wonderful show there. Calgary Flames, first place, Pacific Division. David Rittich has been the goalie because Mike Smith has just gone off the face of the earth, and that's just kind of how it goes. He has not had a good season. David Rittich has emerged very, very, very nicely for the Calgary Flames. And sometimes sometimes you get lucky, and that's how it goes. Obviously, Calgary's got all the scoring. They've struggled in net for a long time, like Brian Elliott. You figure that's a very good goalie coming from St. Louis, kind of like Carter Hutton came from St. Louis, goes to Buffalo. Look at Buffalo now. And, of course, their backup goalie, Linus Ullmark, also been fantastic. Buffalo's a beautiful story. Mike Smith from Arizona, he was actually the older Dubnyk, you could say, in Arizona a few years ago. Comes to Calgary, had a pretty good season last year, but just generally speaking, the team underachieved. This year you got David Rittich kind of just stepping up as a backup, and now ultimately he's been getting the time between the pipes, and well-deserved. Mike Smith has been just horrendous. Still a 9-7 record because the team was scoring so much. They're one of the best. They're getting to be like Toronto almost in the scoring side. 4th in the league in scoring, 12th and against thanks to David Rittich. Before that, not really. 10th best power play, 25th best penalty kills. So if you can get on the power play against Calgary, you got yourself a shot there. You got yourself a shot. This is not going to be an easy game. Minnesota has stunk against Calgary for a long time. A couple of good games last year, but 2 years ago, when Minnesota was fantastic, Boudreau's first year, there was one team we stunk against, and that was the Calgary Flames. And I don't know, we don't win in there very much. We win in Calgary when it's a really slow, low-scoring game, but when Calgary starts scoring, it's kind of game over. And I don't know. You got Monahan, all these stars. Goudreau. Johnny Goudreau is obviously the top player. He's leading the club in scoring, but Monahan's the best goal scorer. And if Calgary scores, it's probably going to be Monahan. I got to think. Matthew Tkachuk, who likes to mix it up in a big way, similar to his father, Keith Tkachuk. But I think Matthew Tkachuk might end up having a better career if he keeps it up. He's got a very bright future. Elias Lindholm was a wonderful addition, and Mark Giordano, who started last year extremely slow, defenseman. Last year he had about 8 points this time of year. This year, 27 points. 27 points for Mark Giordano, just dominating. 10 power play assists on the year. Power play quarterback. Johnny Gaudreau's got 13 power play points. Monahan's got 10. Matthew Tkachuk's got 11. Elias Lindholm's got 13 power play points. 5 goals there for him. Jeez. Yeah, Calgary's got some nice players. Defensively, they're not the best. TJ Brody's okay, but then again, Mark Giordano is a wily veteran, and he is having a hell of a year. TJ Brody is a plus 19. He's basically the Brodeen. He's the Brodeen of the Calgary Flames. Kind of a stay-at-home defenseman who's very solid, and he'll tack in a couple points here and there. But Giordano's their suitor, so to speak, and 14 points for him. He's not the Dumba because he's only got 3 assists. Much more like Suter. There's no Dumba really on the Calgary Flames, which is nice. Many years ago, you could have said Jan Phaneuf was. The 3M line, as they call it, Mikhail Backlund, Matthew Tkachuk, and Monahan, very deadly group. Goudreau with Lindholm has been fantastic as well. I don't know. I don't like the Wild's chances against this team right now. But then again, it's not if I don't like the Wild's chances necessarily. It's not like the Wild stink or anything. Calgary, again, 4 out of their last 5. 6-1 victory over Arizona. 4-3 win over Dallas, or lost to Dallas. 4-1 win against LA. 3-2 win in Chicago. 9-6 over Columbus in Columbus. Calgary scored 9 goals against the Columbus Blue Jackets before they played Minnesota a couple days later here. What the hell? 9 goals. So that's that's really a spectacle there, if you can ask me. Again, it's not like I think the Wild stink. I just think Calgary's playing really good hockey right now. Put it this way, if the Wild win this game, awesome. But right now, Calgary's the hot hand. It's not just their name, the Flames. They are flaming right now. They're on fire. Minnesota's kind of, hopefully we can get it back together. There's at least one of these games I think the Wild will win. I think the Wild have a beautiful chance of going 2-1 in this group. I think you have to go with Dubnyk tonight and Staal tomorrow. Obviously Dubnyk is looked on as the top guy, the Jack Morris, so to speak, the guy you'd put in Game 7 of the finals, obviously, duh. And, of course, the whole finals, Dubnyk would be in net, you'd hope. Dubnyk is that guy, and I think he'll go against the Calgary Flames tonight, but I do think Calgary's going to win the game, unfortunately. Something that likes a 4-3, 5-3 type of game. It's going to be high scoring. Minnesota's going to score some goals in this game. David Rittich has been a wonderful godsend for Calgary, obviously. Emerged nicely. 2.39 goals against average, 8-2 record for David Rittich thus far this season. A nice emergence so far. Again, undrafted free agent. And he's, 26 years old as of August. Again, he's one of those guys not really touted, not really talked about a whole lot, but he's stepped up. And, was, Dwayne Rollison, was he drafted? No. And many others. Backstrom wasn't drafted. So sometimes you just get a guy through free agency and they step up. He's from Czechoslovakia. Jalava, Czechoslovakia. So, again, strong start to his season. Again, he's had some good seasons in the AHL. They didn't think too highly of him, but now he's stepping up, and Calgary is going to win the game 5-3. Unfortunately, most likely guy to score for Minnesota tonight. I think Jordan Greenway is going to score against the Calgary Flames tonight. I like the way Greenway's playing. I got a good vibe on it. And, of course, don't be surprised if it's Eric Staal. But I'm going to go with Greenway. Let's have some fun. And I do believe Greenway is going to find a way. It's going to be one of the young guys, or we'll say even a Coyle type, that's going to find the back of the net at the end of the day in this game against the Calgary Flames. Back-to-back situation. Alex Stalock will most likely face the Edmonton Oilers. He did face them earlier in the season. Edmonton has one guy who's dominating and spectacular, but the rest of the club is just, what they are. They're just 2 games above 500. They wouldn't make the playoffs. They're middle of the road in the goaltending, because their goaltending is a little better this year. 26th in total goals for the season. That's not good. Their power play is 14th. Their penalty kill 24th. So kind of like Calgary in terms of the penalty kill. You can beat them in the power play if you're lucky enough. And unlike Calgary, Edmonton gets a ton more penalty minutes. Calgary was actually was one of the top teams penalty minutes, only 7th in the league, so that's really good. 7th in the league in total penalty minute, least penalty minutes, so to speak. So that's really good for them. Ooh, Edmonton recently beat St. Louis, so that's a big win. But they have won 4 of their last 5, so watch out. Another team that's won 4 of their last 5, and again they have, the LeBron James, the Kevin Durant, whatever you want to say of hockey, so to speak. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins continues to play well. Last year, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins started the season very strongly and dropped off very quickly. Second-line center, top-line center. Well, second line is Connor McDavid, for the Edmonton Oilers. Leon Draisaitl, again, one of the good, strong scoring wings who can set up other players as well. Second-best player on the club. 30 points for him. 14 goals and 22 assists. Good for 36 total points for Connor McDavid. It's crazy how Johnny Gaudreau is basically right there with him. So that's saying a lot about Johnny Gaudreau. Again, quick drop-off, though, after that top 3. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, lucky for him, has emerged better the last couple of years. Massive drop-off. 10-point drop-off to Oscar Klefbom, and then Alex Chiasson and all those others. Adam Larson. To think Adam Larson, who only has 8 assists on the year, and that's it, is 7th in the team in scoring. That's a sign that Edmonton does not put the puck between the net there very often. Cam Talbot's been awful, but Mikko Koskinen, definitely the goalie of the future. And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, with a couple of shutouts on the year, well, Edmonton is going to get to the playoffs. Mikko Koskinen, there's your goalie of the future, and he's been in the he's been developing in the farm system the last couple of years. 2.23 goals against average, and he's been in the net lately, and he's been a lot better. I mean, look at the goals given up by Edmonton the past week. They had one lousy game against Dallas, a 4-1 loss on December the 3rd, but they shut out the Dallas Stars. That was against Koskinen. 2 goals against the LA Kings, 1 goal against Vegas, and only 2 against St. Louis. So, strong. It's not even if you beat not-so-good teams, so to speak. It's the fact that, well, you're winning all these games and you're not giving up goals, because bad teams score goals. It just happens. And not all these teams are that awful. Obviously, Dallas has gotten better the past few weeks here. So they're kind of back in the mix, unfortunately, for Minnesota Wild fans. Kyle Brodziak, what the hell? 26 games, he's only managed 3 points. what the hell, man? That's not even like NHL worthy. He should be in the AHL if he's no production whatsoever. That's garbage. And I know it depends on who you're playing with, but and look at Milan Lucic. Remember, just like 2 years ago, he was a pretty valuable player for Edmonton. Last year was not so great, and he had that annoying goal against Minnesota during that matinee last year, during the Christmas week or whatever. And I think it was the 26th or something of December. 5 points in 28 games for Milan Lucic. Wow, what happened? Awful. I mean, like nobody's scoring other than again their top guys, that big three there. So Minnesota needs to win this game. I don't care if it's in Edmonton. I don't care if it's on the moon. Minnesota's got to win this game. Friday the 7th of December, back-to-back. Alex Staal and net. Minnesota wins the hockey game. Unfortunately, their goaltender again significantly better. That's what concerns me. If it's Cam Talbot, win the damn game. That's all I gotta say. Just win the bleeping game. 3-2 win for Minnesota, the most likely guy to score in the game. I want to say Spurgeon like a million times over because it's in Edmonton, but it seems like it never happens. So, jeez. I got a weird feeling like Charlie Coyle's going to find the net in this game. It's one of these two. He's going to find the net. I think he's going to find the net against the Edmonton Oilers. I just got that vibe. Greenway's going to find the net against Calgary. Charlie Coyle will get his 5th goal of the season, if not his 6th, if he manages to score against Calgary, against the Edmonton Oilers, in my humble opinion. And, well, there you go. Connor McDavid will score in the game because he's going to score many points against Minnesota for many years. But Mikko Koskinen, that's the one thing. It's going to be a lower scoring game than it's been. A lot of games you saw with Edmonton in the past were higher scoring, but I don't know. They have to tighten the things down a bit there in Edmonton because, for one, they're not scoring, so you better at least have some kind of goaltending, some kind of defense in front of the goalie as well. Cam Talbot is not the answer, and Mikko Koskinen looks to be somewhat of an answer here. So good luck to the Edmonton Oilers in that sense, just not Friday night there. Let's go to the Montreal Canadiens here, wrap things up. In the preview segment, Minnesota wins against Edmonton, loses to Calgary. December the 11th, Tuesday, XL Energy Center. You need to win this game. Montreal 13-10, 5th place in the Atlantic Division. They're kind of hovering around in the wild card and all that. Kind of similar to, I don't know who they're similar to. Maybe Calgary last year, and I guess they're similar to Edmonton in a lot of ways, where you got 3 guys that are doing most of the scoring. Though there's a couple guys. Brendan Gallagher, he does have 12 goals in the season, but no assists hardly. 18 total points there. Max Domi's excellent, 30 points on the year. He's leading the way. Jonathan Drouin's having a really nice, strong season for Montreal, and he's been a good addition to the team since the deal a couple of years ago. Thomas Tatar, also 11 goals, 11 assists, kind of keeping things honest there. Scoring a few goals here and there, but they have no goaltending. And what has happened to Carey Price the last 2-3 years, I do not understand. Montreal is just a little bit above average in the goals for. They're 12th in the league, which isn't bad, of course. 25th in goals against, and this with a franchise goalie in Carey Price. And I know he's been injured here and there, but not this year. Montreal does not score in the power play, but their penalty kill is 16th. Go figure. They do not score in the power play at all. Years ago, you saw a bit more of a power play in Montreal, but 29th in the league, 16th in the penalty kill, and they're middle of the road in the penalty kill and in penalty minutes, so to speak. But basically, they don't score goals and they give up goals. That's about it. Well, they score a little bit. Okay, they scored some goals. I shouldn't say that, but I don't get a vibe like the chemistry's good there. There's not a whole lot of assists. There's a lot of guys with, as many goals or more goals than assists, which is, okay, that happens. But I don't know. I just don't get a good vibe with this team. It seems like it's been toxic there for years. Like they're always struggling. It doesn't seem like there's a good vibe there. Mike Riley, the former Minnesota Wild defenseman, he gets a ton of ice time, and you will see him, but he doesn't do much. He's like a Nick Schultz out there. 5 points in the 23 games he's been on the ice. He's missed a few. I'm sure he's been scratched a couple of games because he's not that good. Sorry. Shea Weber's only gotten in 4 games this year. That's disappointing, and that's a shame. He's missed just a ton of time the last couple of years, and that's another reason why Montreal isn't so good. That trade must have been devastating for him. Not Malcolm Sapon, but PK Sapon, of course, one of the franchise players for Nashville, and he was one of the franchise players for Montreal in the past. You've got to win this game, boy. You've got to win this game. Montreal has won 2 out of their last 5. They lose to Boston on the 24th, 3-2, to Carolina, who's an improving team, on 27th. Beat the Rangers on the 1st of December 5-2 at home. Those are all home games, by the way. In fact, 5-game homestand. You go 2-3. That's not good. Lose to the Sharks, not a huge surprise, 3-1. You beat Ottawa 5-2. That's not a surprise at all because Ottawa's probably going to get the number 1 pick in the draft the way they're going. They'll play Ottawa again, Chicago on the road, and then head to Minnesota on the 11th. All I got to say about this game is win, baby. Just win. 4-2 victory for Minnesota. I got to think Minnesota's got to beat this team. If it's Dubnyk in net, Staal in net, whatever. I mean, both of their goalies are reliable enough, and both of Montreal's goalies are not. I mean, Carey Price, again. Did I go over this already? I don't remember, but literally 3 goals a game. Save percentage 90. Only 1 shutout, which, okay, whatever. 9-8 record. And then your backup is Antti Niemi, who's been all over the league, and I don't know. He's had some good games in the past, but he's generally not that good. He's pretty much an AHL guy. Almost 4 goals a game. Of course, under 90%. He's magically been 4-2 because I guess Montreal's had some good scoring games in front of him, I suppose. You got to beat this team. They don't have good goaltending. They don't have good chemistry. It just seems like a mess. They have a couple of talented players, though. That's the fear again. I mean, there are guys that can score in this club, but you got to beat them. And that's just all there is to it. Minnesota, let's go with a 4-3 victory over the Montreal Canadiens, maybe 4-2. I mean, you hope Devin Dubnyk can keep these strong games in here. Let's go with 4-2. Minnesota ends up winning the game, maybe an empty net or something like that. Granlund is going to find the back of the net against the Montreal Canadiens at the end of the day. And Minnesota, there's just no excuse. You got to score against this club. So with that, we will now step in to some prospect conversation. As always, we jump into the Iowa Wild. Again, not the best week for the Iowa Wild. They're still in first place in their division, though, which is great. They're definitely on their way to the playoffs this year for the first time in their franchise history, at least since moving to Iowa from Houston. Kyle O'Reilly continues to lead the club in scoring. It's been mostly minor leaguer scoring. Mason Shaw didn't add a point this week. Hopefully that's not a trend. Luke Cunnin, after being very quiet, added a couple points last night, which is great. A goal and an assist. He's now got 7 goals, which is tied with Kyle Rao for the team lead. So that's nice. Again, not setting a whole lot of players up, though. Only 5 assists for Cunnin on the season. And I think there's some decent scorers on this club. They're not the highest scoring team, though. I think their defense is better than their scoring. But I don't know. You have pieces there. You think Cunnin could add a couple more assists and get his point total up. That would be great. Sokolov didn't add anything. Sam Anas, after a horrible start, picked it up big time the past few weeks. And then this past week, not a whole lot. But then again, Iowa only played a couple games. Justin Kloos had 2 points the other night as well. And he's only at 9 points in the season. It's kind of sad and hard to believe that he's dropped off so far. But again, Justin Kloos, one of the top players on the club last year, but again, missed quite a few games this year. That's definitely something to talk about. Brennan Mennel added his 8th assist on the season. Of course, no points. Kaapo Kokkonen, well, he's had a couple of losses lately, unfortunately. Well, yeah, an overtime loss again. A couple of overtime losses, a regulation loss. That was at the beginning of his AHL career. He's been giving up a few goals, but still has a sparkling goals against average at 1.67. Still under 2. Save percentage still over 94%. And he's been the main guy in net lately. He's been the starting goalie for Iowa. It's not been Andrew Hammond. And Hammond's been hurt here and there. Hammond's missed time, and of course that's part of it. But Kaapo Kokkonen, it looks more and more like he's kind of the number 1 guy in the AHL right now, which is kind of cool. Andrew Hammond, during the course of the season, he'd won games, but he's still given up almost 3 goals a game and a save percentage of only 91 at the AHL level. I don't know. I think he's better than that, but that's all you're getting so far, unfortunately. Looking at some of the other prospects this past week, I think a pretty quiet week, unfortunately, for most of the collegiate ranks and AHL or not AHL, like OHL and others. So far, Jack McBain, only 2 points in the 9 games he's played for Boston College, and that team is just terrible. It's too bad. Boston College is usually one of the national powers in hockey, in the Hockey East and college hockey, and he's not been good. And his team hasn't been good, so not a good start to his collegiate career. Sam Hentges added his 5th goal of the season this past week for St. Cloud State. Finally got another point. He's now at 7 on the year after a dazzling start. But, okay, that's good. At least he's getting something going again. Sam Hentges again locally from New Brighton. A 7th-round pick for Minnesota. Nick Swaney, You always like to look at him out of Minnesota Duluth, sophomore year for him, but he's kind of an old sophomore at 21. He's at 9 points in the 14 games so far. Did not add another point this past week, unfortunately. Brandon Duhaime, he did add his he did add a couple assists this past week. No goals, but that's good though. Now he's evened it out because generally he'd been an assist guy but no goals. Now he's been scoring goals and no assists, which is kind of like Cunning, I guess you could say. He's at 10 points. He picked up the pace a little bit for Providence in the collegiate ranks. Brandon Duhaime, he was a fourth-round pick in 2016. That's always a good thing. Jack Sadek and the Gophers kind of struggling this season. He's at 5 points. He's still there, still where he was last week. Couple of overtime losses for the Gophers to Ohio State. At least they were in the game both times, and that's good. So the Gophers kind of hanging in there a little bit, but their chances of making the NCAA tournament are very slim, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, I'm a Golden Gopher hockey fan, not Minnesota Duluth, which, okay, they're my second favorite college hockey team, but it's kind of a distant second because, I don't know, they kind of beat the crap out of us. It would be like if the Flames, like when the Flames used to completely whoop the Wild's ass all the time back in the early days. It used to drive me nuts, so that was the short stand there when I didn't like the Flames a whole lot. And that's kind of what it's like with Minnesota Duluth. But again, Nick Swaney makes me want to like them very much because I'm very excited about Nick Swaney's future with Minnesota long term. I think he's going to be I think he's got a chance to be a solid NHLer. Probably checking line type of guy, though. He's not going to be a star. Like third, he looks like a third liner long term for Minnesota, maybe fourth. But at least I think he's got NHL potential. Philip Johansson doesn't score for anything ever, and that's unfortunate. That just kind of is what that is. And I don't know, it's tough. Those Euro leagues, sometimes there's just no scoring at all, unless you're one of the top type of guys. I'm excited about Alexander Kovanov. Again, he was a guy that slipped to Minnesota because of the injury last year. Third round pick, and he has been just wonderful. He has been wonderful, but again, in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, much better than last year at 19 goals versus only 9 in last season. 41 points already in 30 games. He is just eating up the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So, boy, hopefully Minnesota can get him somewhere higher next year. Obviously, go ahead and dominate in the juniors there. Go ahead and dominate in the Major Junior League there. But hopefully, at some point, very soon, we can get him to the AHL, and that would be just I mean, he's. I'm excited about this guy. Not many people around Minnesota talk about this guy yet. Again, he was talked about significantly right around the draft, went right after the Wild took him, but since then it's been real quiet. But there's definitely potential there. When you're able to see what you can see, you feel good about it. Could end up being one of those fantastic third-round picks for the Minnesota Wild. That would be great, because the Wild haven't had a whole lot of good third-round picks in the past. But this could be one of those good ones, hopefully. With that, really, I mean, with Kaapo Kähkönen now at the AHL level, he used to be the goalie that I followed significantly when I looked into the farm system and the Great Divide, all that, looking into the Minnesota Wild, into the Euro leagues and all that, their prospects. It was always Kaapo Kähkönen, but now he's at the AHL, which is great. Hopefully some of these other guys can get there. Ivan Ladnia, of course, he's our top guy in the OHL, I would say, and he's averaging a point a game, like I've been saying in the past, 9 goals and 17 assists in the 25 games he has played. He's been pretty solid, but I don't know, it's the OHL. I'd like to see some production at the AHL level at some point for Ivan Ladnia. It's not like the OHL sucks, but, well, the AHL is definitely a big step from that, and it'd be nice to see him get somewhere with that at some point soon. With that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of these other guys, it's just kind of Jacob Golden. He doesn't score much, of course, Ontario Hockey League, but he added his 7th point this past week, which is good. And, small sample size so far for some of these guys in the OHL. You can't really see a whole lot of action necessarily. It's just, you just kind of hope for the best. And if you see high production at the OHL, then you got something there, probably, hopefully. And Dmitry Sokolov able to translate a significant amount of it to the AHL, and that's a great sign. And again, you constantly talk about conditioning, this and that with Dmitry Sokolov, but I think he's coming around in his competitive nature. He loves the game. He wants to be an NHL player, and I think you're seeing signs of it at the AHL level. As long as the poor guy can stay healthy, as he's missed 8 games already for the Iowa Wild. That's the one thing. He's only played in 15 games, but again, the 11 total points, though, 5 of them goals for him. at the AHL level. So with that, we're gonna wrap up the show and pass out the contact details. Want to thank Vince Germano for retweeting the show at Brave the Wild, the Twitter account. Give that a follow if you could. Thank you again, Vince Germano out of Australia, for retweeting the show. Going to give a shout out to Gopher Puck Live also, where I had a conversation with him on Twitter. I was noticing how, I subscribe to the show, Gopher Puck Live, and Jupiter's the host. That's his nickname. He doesn't go with his regular name. Like me, I'm Paladino Joey, but I use my regular name as well, and it's fine whichever way you want to do that. For some strange reason, their show just stopped showing up in iTunes, but there it was in Google Podcasts, which is fine, so I can go that direction, but it'd be nice to have it available in both, and I'm sure that wasn't helping them very much, that it wasn't showing up in iTunes. And then it turns out, I had a conversation with him and be like, I love your show, but what's going on with the iTunes section? I give you shout outs on Brave the Wild all the time. And then he's like, I'm not sure, but something isn't right here, huh? And then basically we had a conversation back and forth. Ultimately, it turned out, I discovered that all of a sudden his shows didn't have dates on them anymore. And it's like, oh, that's what's going on. It was kind of like disturbing the feed and moving them down somewhere that nobody could see them, basically. So then somehow something he entered, all of a sudden the dates weren't showing up anymore. I don't know exactly how that worked, but that's what the problem was. He found it right away, and boom, everything's fine, and we're friends now. So now he actually knows me, which is great. Before that, he didn't really know me. I was just somebody who would tweet here and there, and, just some random dude, basically. So now we know each other a little bit, and gave me a follow, and thank you again, Gopher Puck Live, Jupiter. Great show, highly recommended. Big shout out from me here on Brave the Wild. Happy to help him, and love the show. If you like Gopher hockey, check it out. And if you don't, well, screw you, damn it. No. Oh, they need some fannies in the seats, though. You watch those games, and it's like, there's nobody there anymore, and it's sad. The good thing is most of those seats have been paid for. That's the good part. So the finances are there. The bad part is there's nobody there. Oh, it's so depressing. And stop hating on the Big Ten, okay? For those of you out there that are Gopher hockey fans that are pissed off about the WCHA, you know what? I am too. I wish it was the WCHA still. I wish we were still playing Minnesota Duluth and all them. Wisconsin came with us at the very least. And you know what? We still played Ohio State. We still played Michigan State in non-conference games. It's not like we're playing against, teams we've never heard of. So, and some of these teams have national championships up the yin-yang, even if it's not like last year. They have so many national championships. Michigan has more national championships than any college team in the country. Even though most of them came way back, like in Lou Nanny's day and before that. So what? It's still a national championship. Minnesota's got 5, and you go ahead and say most of them were in the 70s. Well, sure, but at least we got 2 in the 2000s, and hopefully some more soon with Bob Motzkow. Wisconsin's got 6, which is annoying because they happened to win in 2006 there. But no, I mean, these are teams you would play in the NCAA tournament anyway, too. Should you make it, you might end up bumping into a team like this, regardless if they're in your conference or not. Just stop hating on the Big Ten and provide some energy for this organization again. Hopefully this college team, that would be great. And I'm guilty too, but my work schedule doesn't add up to me being able to go to games very often, unfortunately. That's the thing. I kind of have to do what I do here, basically. So that's kind of what that is, unfortunately. But so I'm as guilty as the rest of you, I guess. Maybe I should just shut my mouth, right? But still, those of you that have time and love the team, hopefully, especially those of you that already own the tickets, go to the damn game. That's what I got to say about that. If you paid for the ticket, go to the freaking game, please. That would be great. With that, well, again, contact details. The at Brave the Wild. Again, that's where we had a conversation with Gopher Puck Live. At Gopher Puck Live, if you want to give them a follow, which, go ahead, do it. Jump on board. Just don't troll them if you're a Duluth fan or a freaking North Dakota fan. That's the one North Dakota and St. Cloud are the 2 teams I really don't like. But Sam Hench is at least there's somebody from Minnesota. Well, Minnesota. Somebody with the Minnesota Wild ties in them. That's what makes me care about them a little bit now. The Facebook page, facebook.com/Brave the Wild, facebook.com/Brave the Wild. And also I want to give a shout out to MNW players, Pavel Burnett and Marek Skyba out of the Czech Republic. Similar to David Rittich there, Czechoslovakia. Well, yeah, same part of the world there. Though of course those countries had they divided, so that gets kind of interesting. So I don't want to get political on that. I mean, obviously that's up to them how they feel about all that. So David Rittich, though, nice success so far for Calgary. But no, big shout out to Pavel Burnett and Marek Skyba, MNW players. They covered the prospects like I do, and of course the Minnesota Wild itself. Everything regarding the Minnesota Wild, they cover it, and it's a beautiful website, beautiful conversation. And of course, they have a Facebook page. Again, facebook.com/MNW players. Shout out to Minnesota Wild Hardcore as well. Chance Kostick, David Kostick, Jim Maddle, Sarah Maddle, Chad Walski, and many others out there on that page. Great people that talk about the Minnesota Wild in-game threads. Fun conversation, very enjoyable, and thank you again. You gotta love those little Minnesota Wild hardcore patches that they give out as well. Always want to thank them for the one I got last season. Thank you very much. Wonderful page, wonderful Wild conversation. So that's my final shout out. Now I've given out quite a few here today, more than normal. Usually I give out 1 or 2 here and there, but today was like 4 or something. MNW players, though, I am a admin on that page. I haven't been as active as I should be, and I apologize to Merrick and Pavel and Merrick there in the Czech Republic there. I apologize to you guys about that. There's the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention you're calling in to Brave the Wild. Do your statement, shout-out, comment, question, and opine. Would be greatly appreciated. It's a 3-minute limit, so just be aware of that. There's the Call Now button on the Facebook page. Goes to the same line, just goes through Facebook Messenger, so it's free for anybody, anywhere. And the audio submission route is the most recommended, I think. Use your free voice recording app on any smart device on the planet, or Audacity on your laptop or desktop. You can use that too, as long as you have a microphone. Treat it like a phone call or a segment to a show, however you view it. Save it and email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. All of this information will be in the show description, so you can copy and paste or whatever you like to do. And then it's very easy. I will then convert the file to an MP3 via Zamzar.com. Thank you again for that webpage, for what they bring to my show. And that's pretty much it. I want to thank all of you for joining the show. Please tell your friends about it if you could. And if you want to help, give a positive rating on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts would be greatly appreciated. If you could give a nice, positive 5-star review for the show, say something nice about it, and even something you'd like to see improved, whatever it is, you're more than welcome to do that. God bless you. We'll talk to you next week, and go Wild, go.